You know Gray Bar for electrical parts, but there's one more thing you may not be thinking of us for that can help maximize your next project's total value. Our pre-project planning services are designed to help you win the bid, save on labor costs, and keep your installers productive across your entire build. The sooner you call us, the better. Because when we're there from the beginning, we can anticipate your needs and help you solve problems before they become problems. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
Welcome into this week's episode of the Show Before the Show podcast, the official podcast of minor league baseball. Tyler Maughan, Sam Dykstra, Benjamin Hill. Gents, what's going on? I have to just out of the gates. I had a really good performance in beer league hockey last night. Feeling good about myself. How are you dudes doing?
To go on. No, you obviously want to tell a story. So
we won in the shootout.
Get this story.
We won in the shootout. We were down 4-2 in the third. Came back and tied it, went to the shootout. Our first dude scored. I stopped. I'm a goalie. I stopped their first dude. Our second dude scored. So if I stop the second dude, we win in the shootout because it's 3 shooters. Stop the second dude, we win 5-4 in the shootout. Big win. Big win for the boys.
How are the ACLs feeling this morning?
Pretty good. I'm doing all right.
Intact all right. Is the correct answer.
It's funny. I am very much already thinking am I going to regret this in 10 years that I just in my late 30s, I took up playing hockey? Am I going to, and I probably will, but man, is it fun right now.
No, you won't regret it. Don't speak that way.
I like that.
You're doing something you like, and you're not going to look back and be like, I wish I hadn't been active when I was young.
That is true. I do feel that way.
Listen to me talking about how old I was when I was young, and you'll be yelling across time. Shut up.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
You'll be like, why is my older self mad at my younger self? We should love each other. We're the same people.
That is true. That's very
true. And I'll also throw in this. This is your path to the NHL because every team needs a knee bug,
Exactly. I could be like that dude who did it for Carolina. The guy who was the Zamboni driver who had to suit up and got a win as the emergency backup a few years ago.
Once a year you hear about somebody coming in off the street because they just need to be around. You are in an NHL city.
That could be me. Could be me.
Could be. It could be you.
I'm sure isn't
there an AHL team in
what's the closest? We used to have one actually in Denver. There used to be
That's what I was thinking
called the Denver Cutthroats, and then they moved out. But yeah, I could go to Salt Lake. It's a minor league baseball market. I could play for the Utah Grizzlies, formerly the Denver Grizzlies. I could make anybody who's tuned in Salt Lake right now, send this off to the Grizzlies. As we talk hockey to open this minor league baseball podcast. What's going on with you guys? That's what's up with me. What's going on with you? We have a very Dodgers-centric hat thing going on right now. Ben's got a hat of the Mississippi Mud Monsters on, but Sam is rocking a Brooklyn Dodgers hat. I've got the Oklahoma City Comets hat on. What's going on with you guys? How are you?
Yeah, this was not coordinated whatsoever. No. I mean, I've just been wearing Brooklyn Dodgers
Jackie Robinson week?
It's Jackie Robinson week, at least, in this household. So it was fun to celebrate that on Monday and look back at Jackie Robinson's life and career and see that, celebrated across baseball, not only the major leagues, across the minor leagues as well. And it led to a lot of discussion too, which I think is healthy for society about who Jackie Robinson was, what his role was in breaking down the color barrier in baseball and what his effects are today and what he would think of baseball today. And I think that discussion is healthy and good for not just baseball, but society as a whole. So, I wish we did Jackie Robinson week and not just Jackie Robinson day.
Yeah.
So wearing this Brooklyn Dodgers hat all week is my way of kind of keeping that moving.
I like it. Ben, you were half dead this week, but you have rallied from your mystery ailment to return to the podcast airwaves. What's going on? How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling better. It's been a rough stretch for old Ben's biz, but I am nothing if not resilient, or at least that's what I will tell myself until I am no longer resilient, which happens for us all. But until that happens, let's go. And yeah, I'm wearing a Mississippi Mud Monsters hat because guess what? We all have Mississippi Mud Monsters hats. Me, Sam, and you, Tyler, courtesy of their general manager, Andrew Seymour, who came over from Palm Beach Cardinals. I've known Andrew for a long time. He's an avid listener of this podcast, and he took the job with the Mud Monsters, who are playing in. Why am I blanking on the name of that?
The Frontier
Mississippi.
League in Pearl,
Yeah.
Mississippi, in the Frontier
Pearl,
League.
Mississippi, Frontier League. They at Trustmark Park, the Mississippi Braves AA used to play there. They moved to Columbus. They are now the Clingstones. The Clingstones are one of four new ballparks to have debuted this season. And in the absence of the Mississippi Braves, after they relocated, the Mississippi Mud Monsters came in. Andrew Seymour is at the helm over there, sent us some hats. And I like this Mud Monsters hat, and I think I'm going to wear it all season because, there's different, you guys kind of like mix and match your hats all the time. I just get one hat and I wear it for a year until it gets too beat up to wear. Then I make it my handball hat because handball is like the one thing I do for physical activity. And then when it can't be a handball hat anymore, I bury it in the park
underneath the handball court.
Yeah,
Course,
yeah.
There's a small graveyard of Ben's hats.
Yeah, they're all out there. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this Mississippi Mud Monsters hat. And yeah, speaking of Jackie Robinson, I did turn out to be very sick on April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day. But we've talked about Jackie Robinson Ballpark, home of the Daytona Tortugas, quite a bit on this podcast. That ballpark is, of course, named for Jackie Robinson because he played his first games as a member of the Dodgers organization at that park in 1946 spring training when he was a member of the AAA Montreal Royals. I wrote a pretty detailed story about it, 7 years ago, and so that story was resurrected, and not just resurrected, but improved. Collaborated with some coworkers here in the larger MLB ecosystem. And Jess Whitney went to Daytona and filmed things related to Jackie Robinson and his story at that ballpark. So we have a new video. You can read my old story and see this new video, which puts into perspective Jackie's legacy in Daytona. And a really cool thing about it is that it has footage, I think which we've talked about before, but it has footage from Jackie playing at Daytona in 1946. And that was taken by one of the Bat Boys' fathers in 1946, at a time when people weren't toting around cameras. But a Bat Boy's father had a camera and ended up with some footage of Jackie Robinson that survives to this day. And one thing that Jess did that was really cool when she was down there is she took that footage and then got a shot of the same field location today and juxtapose the two, and they look remarkably similar. This footage of Jackie in 1946 and Daytona Tortugas players there today. So I don't know, in terms of just ballparks throughout the country that still exist that Jackie Robinson played at, that you can go and see a game like that. So we've said it before. Daytona Beach, special place to see a game, and cool to see that story resurrected and improved, and have that video and get some real muscle behind it and promoting it out there. So that was a good aspect of Jackie Robinson Day this year. Even if I myself was dying alone at home, I rallied.
And again, you can check out that story at MLB.com. And we thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. You can, of course, get in touch with us wherever you find your podcast. We appreciate you tuning in, and you can send us a note, podcast at MILB.com. This is episode 499 of the Show Before the Show podcast, which is insane. And our very first guest to join the Show Before the Show podcast, I guess was sort of a guest appearance, but we knew it was going to be a weekly guest appearance, was Benjamin Hill. And Ben's Biz Banter is alive and well here on episode 499. It's presented by Circle K. And Ben, we're getting into road trip season for you. Tomorrow, you head out for your first road trip outside of the metropolitan New York area. You're headed to Reading, Pennsylvania to catch the Reading Fightin' Phils. What's the plan for Reading?
Yeah, I've got itineraries. I've been saying all month itineraries coming soon, but I have a lot more road trips to announce in the very near future. But I decided to kick off this season just with a one-off, a team that I can drive to from here in New York City, a team that I've always enjoyed visiting. Reading Fightin' Phils, First Energy Stadium, AA affiliate of the Philadelphia Phillies. I will be there tomorrow, April 19th. Haven't been there, at least officially, in a professional context since 2017, which is just crazy.
Not entirely true. We did stop there
That's true.
on the way to Iowa.
Yeah,
It was not your typical Ben's Biz visit.
that's true. We did stop there on the way to Iowa on our road trip to the Field of Dreams game in 2022.
Correct.
And we stopped
2023.
2023, yeah. And so yeah, we did make an
I
appearance
think that
there.
was 2022.
Was it 2022?
I think so.
It
You
all-
might be right. You
it
might
all-
be right.
It all blends together. But I'll be there for a game, and as it turns out,
Right. It was 2022.
it was 22.
Sorry.
I'm going to be there all day. I'm leaving early in the morning from New York City tomorrow. The Reading Fighting Phils, like several teams throughout minor league baseball, they help to run a Dream League for kids with disabilities. So they're having their Dream League season opener at a nearby field. That'll have members of the organization and some players in attendance. So I'm going to get there early, see the Dream League game, hang out in Reading, Pennsylvania for a bit, and then stick around, obviously, for the 5 o'clock game. I got a designated eater, a name named Matt Zarzecki, who I think wants to get his 3-year-old son into the action, which kind of appealed to me because my son's 4 now, and kids of that age are pretty fun and funny. But we'll have the crazy hot dog vendor, vegetable races, new ballpark improvements, all sorts of stuff. It's a very lively atmosphere in Reading, as a lot of people out there know. And if you don't, stay tuned. I'll do my best to highlight all of it. So looking forward to getting back on the road tomorrow, April 19th, Reading, Pennsylvania.
And you did a hype video that was one of my favorite pieces of video content you've ever done, announcing your trip to Reading.
I've done 2 now, and they're both bizarre. I did one yesterday,
which you should absolutely lean into. Like it's just hilarious stuff. But the first one,
I'm trying. Follow me on Instagram, the Ben's Biz, and I'm working with some people who are better at video production, such as our own Mark Schwartz here in the office, on some more polished things. But I'm trying to get better at reels. And man, you watch a reel and they're not very long and they seem simple, but then you try to put them together and they take time. I spent like an hour and a half in my laboratory, i.e. a phone room here in this office, trying to put one together yesterday, which was my second writing video because I'm just kind of practicing. So they're getting better, but they turn out really bizarre. I think it's because I'm inherently a little weird. And then also just once you get going on these things and you're like, oh, I can add this here. And then you watch it and you're like half like, this is brilliant, and half like, this is horrible.
This man needs help.
Yeah. And then I don't think the Instagram algorithm likes me. I always put this stuff out and I'm like, okay, how many likes? Maybe 42,000, 104,000. This could get up to 800,000. And then I look at it like hours later and it's like 54 likes. And I'm like, what? I'm a brilliant person, but I'm working on it. Follow me on Instagram, the Ben's Biz, TheBensBiz.
Anyways, the reason I brought up the first one was because it has the crazy hot dog vendor just screaming.
Yeah, that's a video I got last time in 2017. He finishes his routine, riding an ostrich, throwing hot dogs to the fans, and then just came back towards the stands or towards the exit, and just stopped and looking straight at my camera, just let out a primal scream. And it's one of my favorite videos I've ever gotten. So hopefully I'll get that again. Rumor has it they have an extra ostrich and hot dog vendor uniform, so I might be out there with the crazy hot dog vendor tomorrow.
Oh, we need high quality video and images.
Yeah, well, we will have a LCC at the ballpark, a live content coordinator, and I have a meeting about that very soon. So I'll be like, hey, make sure you get some good crazy hot dog.
You're going to see 2 ostriches. It's not a mirage. Don't get the first one.
Yeah.
Get the second one.
Get them both.
Get the one who doesn't look like he knows what he's doing.
Oh, I know what I'm doing.
No, you know what you're doing. I'm just saying, like, you're going to look more like a baby ostrich who's just learning to walk in that costume.
I did that. I did the same thing 15 years ago. That's the crazy thing. I've been doing this job so long that nothing's new anymore. Like, I did this 15 years ago. I'll do it again. I'm still out there. And this time I'll capture it better. Back in 2010, like, video wasn't even invented yet. So like
the world was still in black and white.
Yeah, so a lot of the stuff I did back then, that was always an issue with my career in the early days. This kind of like, if I do these things on a baseball field and it's not really recorded well, like, did it happen at all? But it was very important to me because I wanted to establish myself as a guy who would just get out there and do it. So at least it made a reputation among the hardcore fans in the industry to know that I was out there doing it, and it did help. But this time around, now we got some resources, and people can say, who is this weird middle-aged man who does these things? And I say, it's me, Ben's Biz, exploring minor league baseball. Exploring America through
He's
minor
not
league
gonna-
baseball.
There you go.
That's my tagline. Yeah, I remembered it.
Well, Ben, in addition to the Reading stuff, it's just like it is a jam-packed Ben time of year. What else is going on in the world of Ben's biz right now?
Oh, so much. A lot of it too complicated to get into. Road trips coming soon, as I said. I wrote down just a lot of like little one-off things because I've been immersed in some bigger picture things lately, but wanted to provide some banter as we kick off this podcast. And so what has caught my attention? Let's see. The Columbia Fireflies announced some homestand special food items. This to me just feels like one of the most appealing food items, especially being gluten-free. But helmet cheesesteak nachos. I think that's been done before, but like, is that good or what if it's done well? Nachos, the chopsteak, cheese, some onions, served in a helmet. I mean, that to
Now,
me
here is my question
huge.
about helmet cheesesteak nachos.
I wonder if it's going to be the same question I have. But go
Maybe it
ahead.
is. Do they come with nacho cheese or do they come with Velveeta?
That was my exact thought.
Damn!
We're like,
Ah!
are we doing? Is this
Or
a
mind
whiz
melding.
situation
Or
or a
mind melding.
nacho cheese situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's look at the picture.
Who is providing the cheese in the
yeah.
cheesesteak?
This is
Especially
something-
being, Ben, you're basically our cheesesteak correspondent, being the Philly area guy. If it is nacho cheese, how do you feel about that? It's more of a melding of the two types of dish there.
Yeah, that's like
I
steak
think that
with
would be
cheese
cool.
instead of cheese
Yeah.
steak.
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
trust the Fireflies to do it right. I'm trying to pull up the picture here, but you're right. It shouldn't be nacho cheese.
I also sort of feel like nacho cheese in a ballpark and the Velveeta, the cheese whiz that you would get, they're not far apart on the
No.
cheese relation scale, but they are different. They are different entities of cheese.
And if we're not using nacho cheese, then is this just cheesesteak served on a bed of nacho chips? You know
At
what I
what
mean?
point?
Like tortilla chips. Like
We're
Right.
gonna have
At
to
what
reach out to
point?
the
what
team.
is the definitional part of that makes this nachos and not just cheesesteak with instead of bread, tortilla chips?
Yeah, we're gonna have to reach out to the team because the picture it looks good in the sense that the helmet is on home plate and surrounded by the dirt, but it doesn't give you enough of an aerial perspective to really bore down and see what's on
Really
there.
get your fingers in the
Yeah,
nachos
yeah.
there.
And it's hard to see what color the cheese is because it could be nacho cheese, it could be cheese whiz, it could be provolone. We'll have to look into that later. But still, I got excited just in a broader general sense. And yes, being from Philadelphia, you go around the country and people say Philly cheesesteak and you just kind of roll your eyes. I don't get too territorial about it, but there are a lot of things that, pass for Philly cheesesteaks around the country where you're kind of like, well, okay. But hey, whatever. You're saying the words Philadelphia. That's close to Ambler, where I grew up, and I feel like, hey, you're respecting Philadelphia somewhat. Some people would say you're disrespecting Philadelphia by not doing it properly, but I feel like if you're trying and you're saying the words Philadelphia,
They're aspiring to be Philadelphia.
yeah. So just keep
which
aspiring.
I think is complimentary.
Yeah, keep aspiring. I mean, no one will ever get there except Philadelphians, but yeah, keep trying to aspire to be Philadelphia's Super Bowl champions.
I would crush the cheesesteaks regardless of which cheese option, by the way. The cheesesteak.
Yeah, me too.
Sorry.
We're like
Yeah.
arguing over
I
this.
would
All of this
annihilate
sounds
both of those.
amazingly
Yeah, that's the
delicious.
thing. Hey, putting aside all these like purity arguments, the bar's pretty low for me eating it and being like, "This is great." So it's all good. I mean, in other food news, we've kind of gotten away from. We've missed some alternate identities recently. There were so many we talked about, especially in February and March. But the Lansing Lugnuts finally got their 2025 Olive Burgers identity out there via an announcement from Joey Chestnut, who will be at the ballpark when the team plays as the Olive Burgers to, I think, once again, or to improve upon his already existing olive burger eating world record. And olive burgers are a Central Michigan specialty and not too well known out of Central Michigan, I've discovered, but the olives are, chopped and mixed up with mayo. Sometimes there's brine in the mix. So it's kind of like a olive spread on top of the burger and sounds good to me. And the Olive Burger logo is pretty interesting. It has no legs, but it has like these like kind of muscular forearms and it's holding a burger and like a swizzle stick as a bat, I guess.
Yeah,
like,
beefy arms, one might say.
Yeah, beefy arms. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah. And he's a burger, so he has no legs. That means he's close to the ground. Beef. Yeah.
And it has no legs, but it does have buns.
There you go. Yeah. Look, we're on a roll. I'm on a roll. It's the perfect medium for us to make these well done jokes.
Ah, the ground beef comment just made me think of the Mitch Hedberg thing where he says a burrito is a sleeping bag for ground beef. Um, Ben, what else is going on? This is we're starting to get toward the phase of the season where teams fully, molt from the early larva of the minor league season into the full-fledged butterflies that they are once kids get out of school and you can have all of your promotions on full-fledged display. How'd you like that analogy,
I
Sam?
don't know. Do
Yeah,
you want to just stretch that a little bit more? Do you want to?
I
yeah,
feel
no,
like
that's
that
a
really
beautiful.
only works for Eugene as the Monarchs in Copa. That's the
Yeah.
only thing.
Yeah, no, that was a beautiful analogy. I mean, yeah, there's been promotions happening at a pretty furious clip. I wrote a promo column just for the first week of the season, realizing that it seemed a little more robust than it had in recent years. This Tuesday, Rocket City Trash Pandas have a Caden Dana real hair bobblehead, where it's just like, I don't know if it's real hair. I mean, I don't think they cut it from his head and put it on the bobblehead. But it's like, real hair blowing in the wind. And they actually, I think, soundtracked it with Bob Dylan, or at least initially. I'm not sure if the copyright lawyers came after him, but blowing in the wind. And again, doing this job a long time, I thought, you know what? I remember the first time I heard of a real hair bobblehead. And I looked it up, and it was 20 years ago, my very first season, kind of dipping my toe into covering promotions and stuff. But in 2006, the Staten Island Yankees, I believe Gary Perone, who's now back in Staten Island, leading the Ferry Hawks, the independent Atlantic team there. But when Gary was in Staten Island in 2006, Chin Chin Min Chin Chin
Chen
Ming
Ming
Wang
Wang.
Bing Ming
Ching
Long.
Ming Wang.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got it wrong. Chin Ming Wang, real hair bobblehead, Staten Island Yankees 2006. So seeing the Rocket City Trash Pandas real hair, Caden Dana bobblehead got me thinking that we have at least 20 years of history with quote unquote real hair bobbleheads. Although off the top of my mind, I can't think of too many. We've had, the Paul Skeens bobble stash. Altoona Curve just did another pitcher who had real hair earlier in the season. Who is that? Yeah, well, I'll look it up.
It's
Um,
also kind of
Was
funny to
that
me
Jared
because
Jones, maybe?
yeah, Jared Jones. Yes,
Yeah.
Jared Jones,
I
Altoona
don't
Curve real
necessarily
hair.
think of Chen Ming Wang as being somebody who like, oh, remember that guy's hair?
That's
Like
what I was thinking too. Yeah.
he had a good head of hair, but it wasn't like that wasn't the thing that you noticed about Chen Ming Wang.
No.
Yeah, I don't know why of all players his was the groundbreaking usage of real hair, but that's how it happened. Staten Island 20 years ago. So I don't know. My mind sort of enjoys connecting those dots. Switching tracks. I mean, Tyler, I heard that you're a broadcaster. I'm wondering if you or some of your peers have ever done what Spokane Indians broadcaster Mike Boyle did last weekend. They're now calling him Mike Double Duty Boyle. He did a dual sport broadcasting doubleheader. He was on the mic for the Spokane Indians in an afternoon matchup with Vancouver, and I'm reading from the press release here, before heading over to the Spokane Arena for the Spokane Chiefs playoff game against Victoria that night, marking the first time in Brett Sports history, that's the ownership group, that announcers worked both baseball and hockey games on the same day. And so that's probably not some crazy unprecedented thing, but it's pretty cool to call a baseball game, be like, whoop, gotta go, drive over to the hockey arena, call some playoff hockey. Have you had double duty days in your
I
time?
have. I have done double duty days. I've done my wildest double duty day was I did a basketball game in Denver in the afternoon, and then I drove to Colorado Springs, which is about an hour, hour and a half away, to do a hockey game at night. And there's actually the University of Denver, the Denver Pioneers athletic department did a video sort of charting that day from when I signed off on the basketball broadcast and hopped in the car and flew down to Colorado Springs and did a hockey game. And it was a friggin' blast, man. It was so fun. I don't know if I've ever done it with baseball as one of the sport. I would assume I have not done it with baseball as one of the sports because when I've done baseball, it's been, exclusive stuff. I didn't do any other sports when I was in Myrtle Beach or Altoona and, the international stuff that I've done and all that. But that is very cool stuff. And especially to be able to do it for like, two teams in the same city. One of them's a playoff matchup. That is so cool in Spokane. That is great stuff.
Yeah, congrats to Mike Double Duty Boyle for that achievement on Sunday. And what else we got? Thinking back to 20 years ago, yet again, Sam, you're my pronunciation guide. The switch pitcher right now,
Oh, Durangela Senja.
Senja. Yeah, he is obviously drawing a lot of attention for being ambidextrous, switching a specially made glove between hands depending on the batter. And I've been a little, I don't want to say disappointed, but in reading coverage of him, I haven't seen a lot of mentions of Pat Venditti, right?
Creighton baseball legend Pat Venditti. Yeah,
That was one of the
I
biggest
have been
stories.
disappointed as well by that, Ben,
I
and I'm
kind of
glad that
thought
you
that
highlight
we'd
it.
have a Venditti renaissance, and in most
Yeah.
of the articles I'm reading, it doesn't mention him.
No, and it's
And
not as though Pat Venditti did this in the 1920s. Like Pat
no,
Venditti was around within the last
Pat
decade.
Venditti
and a half.
invented a rule. Not he
Yeah,
specifically, but
it was
caused
the
a rule.
Venditti rule.
yeah, I wrote that article 20 years ago, and it got resurfaced recently for that reason. Pat Venditti was a switch pitcher, and again, I was very early in my career, so it was one of the biggest stories I covered very early on. He was in the Yankees farm system. Actually, believe was, speaking of Staten Island, home of one of the original real hair bobbleheads. He was back there around that time 20 years ago. He had the six-finger glove, and one of the first games he played was for Staten Island, an interborough matchup against the Brooklyn Cyclones, and he faced a switch hitter. So what do you think happens? He's gonna throw righty to this guy
Right.
batting right-handed, and the switch hitter's like, well,
I'm gonna
okay.
step
And then
out
he
and
moved
go
to the left.
lefty.
And
Yeah.
then Vendetti stepped off, switched his glove,
And that
and
went
they
on for
back
like
and
8 minutes or
yeah,
something
it's
like
like
that.
it's a baseball comedy routine, and there had just been no, I don't want to say preparation. I'm not faulting anyone, but there just been no need for this
Yeah, there
rule.
wasn't a
So
precedent for that.
so a rule was in place, which I'm paraphrasing and simplifying, but was that basically the pitcher has to declare to the batter what hand he's going to throw with, and then the batter makes his decision from there. Because then any time an ambidextrous pitcher switch faces a switch hitter, then you're going to just have that situation, an endless game of like back and forth and cat and mouse. And so I'm just bringing him up because I believe we should have more Pat Venditti discourse these days when we do
I
have a
could
new
not agree more.
ambidextrous pitcher.
I'm very happy that you brought that up because I've been very sad to see the Pat Venditti erasure. I remember seeing Pat Venditti pitch when he was in college, and then he made his big league debut. That's the other thing, too. It's not as though Pat Venditti did this and he reached high A, and then we never heard from him again after that rule was established. Pat Venditti pitched 5 big league seasons. Like, he made 61 appearances in the major leagues. So it's not as though this guy was like some flame out who was just like a one-season wonder who established the rule. That's a big league guy.
No, he hung on, and he had a
Yeah.
lot of perseverance. He never fully caught on in the majors, but the fact he made it in the first place was amazing, and I was always rooting for him. A sort of side memory of all that is once I started writing about Pat Venditti, because we did several articles on him back then. This guy who I don't know if he worked with Pat or at least had worked with him a little. He was like an ambidextrous guru. He wanted to spread the gospel of ambidextroism, and he was called the Hammerman. And he would just call me randomly, Ben, it's the Hammerman. And his whole thing was balancing ping pong balls on hammers, between his right and left hands. And he had all these videos of drills and serving tennis balls right and left handed. And he just, I think when he saw Pat Venditti have a moment, he was like, this is my time to show my hammerman knowledge and ways of doing things to build up your eye-hand coordination so you can be truly ambidextrous. So whenever I see switch pitchers, I think of Pat Venditti, and then as a kind of subset of that, I think of the hammerman. And I hope the hammerman is still out there balancing ping pong balls on hammers between his right and left hand.
Now, I will say, and Sam's better suited to address this, Cinch's stuff is a little bit better than Pat Venditti's stuff. I mean, as far as a prospect goes, this is somebody we could see on the major league landscape for longer, potentially. But Pat Venditti erasure, I'm very glad that we have addressed the Pat Venditti erasure because it has not sat well with me, and I'm glad that we have thrown it out there.
Yeah, I think
We're thinking of you, Pat, wherever you are. We got you.
I think that is the separator here, and I'm definitely on your guys' side. I want to get that out front. Pat Venditti should be mentioned in all these things, and at least be like, "Hey, he's the first guy to really try this since Pat Venditti." That seems like a simple thing to throw in these stories. The only thing I'll say is that Venditti was a pure reliever. I just looked it up. The amount of starts he made in his major and minor league career were 6, and I'm sure those 6 were as openers. Like he was always a reliever. Senja has a legit chance to be a starter. I mean, him throwing from the right side, it's like mid 90s. It's good breaking stuff. He would be a starting pitcher as a right-hander, and then he can mix in the left-handed, which is more sinker slider type. And the Mariners' plan for him is fascinating to me. Over the weekends, they're going to have him start and pitch normally from the right side, maybe mix in some left-handed stuff, but because he's so good from the right side, it'll be predominantly right-handed. And then in the middle of the week, he's going to throw in games as a lefty just to get some work in. So we're going to look at him at the end of the year, and it's going to be like, I I don't know how many appearances, 50 appearances and like 26 starts, and you're going to be like, who is this? Like
Yeah.
historically, hopefully he has a major league career and we all remember this stuff, but it's going to be so atypical. And the more I'm fascinated by that plan. You want the left-handed side to get work. I get that. The more work you get, the more likelihood something breaks down. Like I don't know how all that works. You're throwing midweek bullpens anyway, so maybe this is just another version of that. He's a unicorn in that way. As much as Venditti was cool and did enough to make the major leagues, and again, I don't want to downplay that. This is like an actual starter who could do this and has the stuff that Venditti didn't. So it's a fascinating experiment, and we'll see how long it goes. Maybe this time next year we're talking about him being righty only, but ride this train as long as they can.
I do also want to point out that there was one other switch pitcher in the modern era in the big leagues, apparently. Greg A. Harris, not to be confused with Greg W. Harris. They pitched around the same exact time in the big leagues. Greg A. Harris, who pitched parts of his career for the Mets, the Reds, the Expos, the Padres, the Rangers, the Phillies, the Red Sox, the Yankees, and then back with the Expos to finish his career. He pitched to 2 batters left-handed in and this is according to his Wikipedia page, which Ben may have written because it says in the penultimate game of his career, he pitched 2 batters left-handed. That made him the first switch pitcher in the modern era of Major League Baseball. So, we don't want to. There should be no Greg Harris erasure either. But Pat Venditti, we're on your side, Pat.
Yeah, I mean, Sam's over here downplaying his accomplishments.
I'm not downplaying his accomplishments. It's incredible that he made the major leagues. Like you said,
sure,
60 plus
Sam.
appearances.
Yeah. Yeah. Pat
I am
Venditti,
very
not
excited.
Good enough for Sam Dykstra.
Pat Venditti walked so Durangelo Sandra could run. Like that's all I'm saying.
That's true.
I am very excited to see the way that this career is going to progress for Durangelo Sancha. And it's a name that I remember upon seeing him in the U18 Baseball World Cup a few years ago. I thought, I kind of hope he doesn't get into the game when I'm pitching or when I'm broadcasting so I can just sit and watch him pitch and I don't have to try to understand his name and how to say it. But very exciting arm in the Mariners organization. And Pat Venditti, wherever you are, I hope you know that you have opened the door for someone as cool as Durangelo Sancha to come along. Okay, let's move to our conversation for this week. A couple of weeks ago, if you were tuned into the Show Before the Show podcast, you heard about a bizarre story out of Syracuse, New York. I'm going to let Ben give you the overview on it, as well as the overview of our conversation that's coming up from Syracuse. Ben?
Yeah, this is a promotion that we did talk about on the podcast, and I've already featured it in my newsletter, some pictures from it, the Baseball Traveler newsletter, sponsored by Circle K. The Syracuse Mets, and this is a couple weeks ago now, April 3rd, during the first week of the AAA season, they staged a promotion, and stop me if you've heard this one before, but we're going deeper into this. It was like searching for the Lizard King night. They didn't want to use any Doors trademarks, but they got wind of a new Apple TV documentary that posits that Jim Morrison, frontman for the Doors, of course, faked his own death and started a new life in Syracuse as a maintenance man named Frank X. And this man, Frank X, is in the documentary. So the Syracuse Mets tracked down Frank X, a.k.a. Jim Morrison, still alive, got him to the ballpark, and staged a promotion around his existence and this weird bit of Syracuse lore. And I was just so enamored with this promotion. I actually flirted with driving to Syracuse just to see it. I know it's just a weird one-off on a Thursday night, but it's the minor league baseball spirit I always want to celebrate the most. So I was a little belated getting him on the phone. It's been crazy times. I think he was a little sick, but Jason Smorol, the exuberant general manager of the Syracuse Mets, I linked up with him to say, Jason, let's talk all about this promotion and the fact that you had Jim Morrison at a ballpark on a Thursday night in Syracuse under his longtime alias, Frank X. That's minor league baseball, and I want to hear more about it. I hope you do too.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
So, okay, Jason, it was the third game of the season. You'd opened the gates for the first time. You'd gone through opening day, and then on the third game of the season, Thursday night, probably a chilly night in Syracuse, you're looking for Jim Morrison because you got word that the Lizard King is alive and well in Syracuse. And this is the kind of promotion I want to know more about. So how did this happen?
It was probably just about 2 weeks prior to opening day, or the day of whatever. It came across very fast. Kathleen McCormick and I, she's our director of sales and marketing. She's our resident director of conspiracies and documentaries. And she was talking about, she was watching this documentary called Before the End, Searching for Jim Morrison. And I saw it in our newspaper as well, the Syracuse.com. And they were doing a story about how Jim Morrison may have faked his own death and may be alive and living in Syracuse all these years later. So Kathleen goes into details. I was like, we should do Are You Jim Morrison night. And then, we have been with the Mets long enough to know that we got to be very careful about trademarking and things of that nature. We're like, well, we can just go old school minor league baseball and call it Are You the Lizard King? Are you Mr. Mojo Rising? Any of the other pseudonyms for Jim Morrison. So we went with it. We said, let's just do it. It's dumb. It's funny. It's local. And what are we going to do? We're going to play Doors music. We're going to bring some dudes out, see if they look like Jim Morrison. Is there any Jim Doors food? No. And then Kathleen, because she's the beast and awesome, the next day she comes in, she's like, oh, and the guy's name is Frank X, the guy who they think might be Jim Morrison. She goes, I found Frank X. I was like, how did you find Frank X? What do you mean? She's like, oh, I Facebook friend requested him. How did you find this guy? Excuse me. So long and short of it, she finds Frank X. She finds, some side business that he may be involved with. She's giving me these phone numbers. We're calling him. We called him a couple of times to no avail. And then we called again and we got him. So we probably called him like 3 or 4 times. And then we finally got him, and like the social media girls are following us around on, getting our phone conversations with Frank X to help promote it on social media. And just a nice guy, lives here in Syracuse. He's 81 years old. And we said, we'd love to have you come out. It's just for fun. We're going to introduce you as Frank X. You throw the first pitch. We're going to put you in a suite. Bring your family, bring your friends. We're not going to make fun of you. It's just going to be but to have you here would make the night, be awesome. So he's like, well, I don't know. I got to work. And I was like, well, you should quit. And then he's like, well, I'll ask for the day off. And we found out he worked at Wegmans. So we called Wegmans. We're like, hey, can you give Frank X the day off? And they're like, well, if he asks us for it, we'll give him the day off. So he finally asked, and they gave him the day off. And we didn't pull this all together until probably Wednesday, and we got Frank there, and we had him throw out the first pitch, and he chitter chatted with a bunch of people, and we put his family and this family. He had family members that were big Syracuse Mets fans. One guy came in his Irish Knight jersey. One maybe his daughter or came in her Pride T-shirt, and they had a great time. I really wanted him to enter the Jim Morrison lookalike contest and
Yeah.
win it. But he didn't want to come down from the suite, I don't think, at the time. I think he was having a good time at the game. So it was great. Kathleen really did all the detective work and the hard work on this, and it was just one of those dumb, stupid minor league things that we're able to do and pull off. And people really enjoyed it. They had a good time. We had a nice Dollar Thursday crowd. We had a young crowd, so we had a bunch of people who did not look at all like Jim Morrison, but they were just kind of drunk college kids, and they just wanted to get on the field. So we had like 9 people. One of them looked like Jim Morrison, so he won. He won glamorous prizes and a future first pitch.
Nice. And so Frank X, I mean, so this documentary posits that that's a pseudonym for Jim Morrison, that he is actually Jim Morrison. Did you talk to Frank about this, and did he betray anything that might let it be known that he actually is Jim Morrison?
Well, Kathleen is a little more fine-tuned than I am, and Kathleen realizes that and learned from the documentary that Jim Morrison had blue eyes and that Frank X has brown eyes. But if you look closely, there might just be a tint of blue on the outside, and he might be wearing colored lenses. Uh, and the scar on his nose is the same as the scar on the nose. And he has all these pictures with and knows acquaintances of Jim Morrison. I need to go back and watch the documentary. But spoiler alert, on the documentary, they ask him if he is Jim Morrison, and he said no. And I asked him on the field, I go, "Are you like Jim Morrison?" He's like, "No." But that's, I guess, what Jim Morrison would say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's exactly what Jim Morrison would say.
But then I looked up, and my own investigative juices got flowing, and I looked up, and Jim Morrison was 5'11"
Mm.
when he was 20. I don't know how old was he. He wasn't very old when he
Yeah,
supposedly died. He was in
yeah,
his 20s, right?
27, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. So if he's 81, this guy's 81. And I guess Jim Morrison is supposed to be 77, but you could fake your age. This guy is maybe 5'6". Do you shrink that amount? And I know you shrink. There's shrinkage. But do you shrink that much?
Yeah, that seems like a fairly extreme amount of shrinkage, but I like the fact that there's still questions that we still don't know for sure, and that even though you got Frank X to the ballpark, um, we can still say that really might have been Jim Morrison, and future rock and roll historians might get further definitive proof and look back at this promo as a breakthrough moment.
And I lie on my driver's license. I'm 6'1.5", and I clearly say I'm 6'1". So maybe Jim Morrison stretched the truth a little bit.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I used to stretch the truth on my dating profiles back in my single days, so it's
I love gluten.
yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Let's let's go to some glutinous restaurants. We'll have a grand old time.
Yeah, you got to tell the people what they want. Well, so you had Frank X, you had the lookalike contest, and sounds like it was a fun Thursday night in Syracuse.
They picked the wrong songs. We opened the gates. They're playing all this Doors music. They were playing like The End, and they were playing all these sad, morbid Doors songs. It's like I probably could have helped them curate the list. And it's surprising though, we're getting old. I'm old. A lot of people don't know the Doors. The new generation doesn't really know the Doors. Our social media team, they're dubbed the Hot Dog Girls. They didn't know Jim Morrison and the Doors, but they were all still fascinated by this, just the conspiracy.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people obviously remembered the Doors, and older generations really enjoyed it. But the younger kids seemed to think it was fun that whoever this person was, he must have been really famous, and he might be living in Syracuse, New York.
Yeah, you just don't know. Well, is there anything else in the works along these lines, or do you just kind of have to see what you read in the paper and see what information comes your way? I mean, I guess these are the kind of things you can't really plan for.
You really can't. I mean, I think that, it's good that we just kind of remembered our roots and what we're able to do and to pull things together on the fly and as a minor league team just to really be that hyper local, and it could even be a national trend or something like that people just want to be on. But I like it better when it's kind of local, and we still do our food thing, and we still do our dog days. This year we're going to try a cat day, and we'll see how that one goes. It's on $1 PERS day, but no more. We don't have any of these. We have another local one that we've been in the books for years that I really wanted to do, and everyone has told me that we can't do it. But I think that they're weakening, and I think that they're going to let us do it.
Ooh, cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what that is. And I remember my last time in Syracuse, you were adamant that pierogi is always singular. So maybe a theme night around that. You got to spread that information as well.
You have no idea the amount of people I correct on a daily basis in Syracuse, New York. I just corrected somebody last week. And I'm still mad at the pierogi guys who still make our pierogi that they have an S on their sign. I should make new signs for them.
Yeah, I think that's another goal for this 2025 season. You got a lot on your plate, but what you said about, yeah, hyper local, reacting on the fly, being ridiculous. This is the spirit I'm always trying to promote. So I'm glad I finally got to talk to you and we can share this story on the podcast.
It's always good to talk to you, Ben. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, Jason.
Well, the big thanks to the Syracuse Mets. Very interesting stuff. Do you? What are your thoughts? You believe in this whole thing?
I thought you were going to ask for my thoughts on the Doors, and I was
What are your thoughts on the Doors? You and I have. I think you and I have both been to the purported gravesite of Jim Morrison in Paris.
Yeah, I think that's where I come down on this. Is like I don't want to be lied to. I thought that was like a real visit, a real
Sam,
fun visit.
I got bad news for you about the modern world.
Every gravesite we've been to is wrong.
All right, well let's move on and talk about some on-field baseball stuff as we roll through the first month of the minor league baseball season here in 2025. Sam, top prospects starting hot, starting cold. Some headlines early on. Who you got? Who are the hitters that are grabbing your attention here through the first few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, one that's top of mind is Roman Anthony with the Boston Red Sox. Obviously, our number 2 overall prospect only ranks behind Roki Sasaki on that list, and will jump to number 1 when Sasaki inevitably graduates here in a couple weeks. Best hitter in the minor leagues, and that's what we expected coming in, but he's done a really nice job. And one thing I want to point out about this too is that he's done a really nice job playing for Worcester. Like most of his games have been in really cold environments. It's not like a situation like Nick Kurtz, who I think we've talked about on the show before, who's gone off to a tremendous start himself in AAA Las Vegas, PCL being very hitter friendly, Vegas being much warmer than Worcester or Rochester, where Roman Anthony is right now. Roman Anthony had a 2-homer game on Thursday. The second homer was a grand slam the other way. The guy just repeatedly put the barrel to the baseball. I mean, I think he leads AAA in barrels going into today. It's a 283 batting average, 585 slug, OPS over 1,000. He's walked 14 times, struck out 17, but he's got those 4 homers over 67 plate appearances. It's getting to a point where, like, the Red Sox, I know that they have a complicated outfield situation right now. I know Masataka Yoshida is currently injured, and you want to find a place for him eventually. Obviously, Rafael Devers, there was a whole thing with him in the offseason and going into the spring after they signed Bregman. Devers becomes their DH, so that spot's really locked down. Where do you put Roman Anthony? And one thing I want to respond to Boston Sports Radio, they're just like, well, just make Roman Anthony the first baseman. Why don't you just do that? Like, Tristan Casas isn't off to a great start. Slide Roman Anthony to first base and just forget about it. And it's just like, don't do that. Roman Anthony is too athletic. He's pretty good in the outfield. you do not just slide a guy over to first base and be like, yeah, there's literally a movie made around this concept that you don't just move a guy over to first base and forget about it, especially for a young prospect like this. You can move them around positions and whatever, but like don't just slide the guy over to first base because it seems to make sense in your head. I think a lot of that was driven by just sports radio being sports radio, and you need to say something and drive the conversation. And it's easy to say, but you don't have to make the decision. You can kind of sit to the side. Roman Anthony is going to make his major league debut as an outfielder. Might be in left field, might be in center field. I think the way things are maybe trending is that you put Jaron Duran in center, you put Roman Anthony in left, Cedar Rafaela, who I really like as a defender and, has some severe chase rate issues. Maybe he ends up being a utility guy, and that's tough to say, but good teams are built around depth like that, and Roman Anthony is certainly knocking on the door. So keep an eye on him. We're past the date now. And Tyler, you and I have talked about this for PPI incentives. I don't think he's eligible anymore to get 172 days. So if he were to win the Rookie of the Year this year, a la Paul Skeens last year, he wouldn't get the Red Sox an extra draft pick. But you're the Boston Red Sox. You're trying to stay competitive in a very loaded AL East. I mean, every team in that division has playoff aspirations, right? Like you can't afford to fall back just because you've got the best prospect in baseball in AAA. So we'll see how long it takes Anthony to get that call, but he's really been barreling baseballs so far. I'll just throw out Nick Kurtz's stats because they're absolutely absurd. 329 average, 699 slugging percentage, 1082 OPS, 7 homers through 82 plate appearances. Everything is there right now for Kurtz. And one thing that a lot of people are keeping their eye on is how are the A's going to fit him in? Because Tyler Soderstrom leads the major leagues in home runs right now. They've got Brent Rooker, who's, I would say, their franchise cornerstone at DH. Rooker started playing some outfield. That seems to be the piece that may unlock a spot for Nick Kurtz. I kind of circled him to maybe debut by July, which would be aggressive considering that would be exactly 1 year after he was drafted. Seems like all the pieces are there for him now to make the A's at some point. Now, would he become the first baseman and you move Soderstrom to DH? I think that's the move because I really like Kurtz as a defender. He was considered a plus defender coming out of Wake Forest last year, and I think he's probably better there than Soderstrom. Martin Gallegos even threw out the idea of like maybe Soderstrom gets time at third base. He's a former catcher. Like he has some arm strength. Maybe that's how that works. I'm fascinated to see how that goes. But again, the A's, I think, want to be competitive this year. They made signings in the offseason, bring in Luis Severino, among other things. And they locked down Rooker. They locked down Lawrence Butler. Like they want to be at least competitive for a wild card spot. And again, don't let your top prospect languish at AAA just because, you think like, oh, well, we don't know where he's going to fit. Like you make space for Nick Kurtz, especially when he gets off to this start. Alex Freeland is another one I'll throw out there. He only has 1 homer so far, but he's hitting the ball basically as hard as anybody in AAA. 333 average, 400 OBP, 887 OPS. He's gotten 5 steals. Really gifted defender at short. Obviously, the Dodgers are using Mookie Betts at short, and we know Mookie Betts can slide over to the outfield if they need to, or maybe Alex Freeland is somebody who goes around. We'll see how that goes. 2 call-ups that happened this week that are sort of interesting. Luke Keeschel goes up to the Twins. That's not official as of recording, but everything that's been reported is that that's happening. He's a pure hitter, underwent Tommy John surgery last year, so he's done a lot of DHing. But the Twins have had a series of infield injuries, and they just need to call up guys and get them fitted into spots. And he's mostly going to be a second baseman, but that bat's going to play. The guy's a professional hitter. And then Edgar Caro of the Chicago White Sox gets called up from AAA Charlotte. Unlocks a little bit of a logjam that they had in Charlotte. They just got Kyle Teel in the offseason in the Garrett Crochet deal with the Boston Red Sox. And that meant they had 2 AAA catchers, and they were kind of rotating them through and saying, like, it's important to develop them both as catchers. Now Caro goes up Teal stays at AAA Charlotte, there might be a point in a month or two where Teal gets the call as well, and they're right back at it, but at the major league level. And that's, again, that's admirable. That's what you want. You want guys competitive at the major league level, because the White Sox clearly didn't have that last year. They don't have that on the major league roster now. They also called up Chase Mydroth, who has one of the most fascinating profiles. The guy rarely swings the bat, but when he does swing, he doesn't miss. When he got called up, he had 0 swings and misses in the zone. I think he was one of very few AAA players. He might have been the only AAA player. I can't remember off the top of my head, with a 0% whiff rate on balls in the zone at the time of getting called up. So the White Sox are at least becoming more interesting. Caro's a bat first catcher. Had some struggles before in the Angels system when they got too aggressive with him, moving him to AA. Repeated the level last year, looked like a top 100 prospect again, and is now headed to the south side and making the White Sox at least more interesting. And he's the first of their 6 top 100 prospects to get called up. He will not be the last, whether it's Noah Schultz or Hagen Smith, who's another 2024 first round pick, who's off to a good start at AA Birmingham. I know Colson Montgomery's not doing especially well this year at AAA Charlotte. His stock is really dropping after he had a tough 2024, but who knows? I mean, he's still got power. If he can make more contact as it goes along, we might see him debut in the second half, if not just to like get a look at the major leagues and prepare for 2026. So, the White Sox, they need to undergo a youth movement, and those gears are starting to turn for sure.
All right, Sam. What about pitching wise? Early season, sometimes you mentioned Worcester, weird cold weather spot early on in the season. There are a lot of those at the upper levels of the minors, especially pitching wise. We don't always get an indication of what the full season scope is going to look like for guys getting into the campaign, working through weather stuff in April. But what stood out on the pitching side?
Yeah, a couple names I'll throw out here real quick. Harleen Susana of the Washington Nationals, now their number 2 prospect, behind only Travis Sakura, who isn't pitching because he underwent offseason hip surgery. They expect him to be back in May. Susana, only 21 years old in that AA. Obviously, the triple-digit fastball is what everybody talks about, but the slider's been really good early on. I caught him during the spring breakout game against the Astros. I was calling that game and really excited to see him and check in on his progress, because he's a hard thrower, but he's had a long history of control issues, but he jumped onto the top 100 because he seemed to correct some of those, or at least rein it in 2024. Really struggled to find the zone in the breakout game. So it's like, all right, is he slipping back? And he's walked 8 and 13 and 2/3 innings. I mean, that's not completely ideal, but he struck out 10 batters in his most recent start for Harrisburg on Thursday. He currently leads all top 100 prospects in strikeouts with 23 and only 13 and 2/3 innings. He's recorded 41 outs. 23 of them have been by way of the K, to steal the line from Don Orsillo. The slider, guys just can't hit it. I mean, they're sitting heat. They're geared up for 101, and then he drops that slider in the upper 80s. And guys just swing and miss over the top of it over and over and over again. He's got a decent changeup. I think it's been averaging 93 miles an hour. So it is changing up from like upper 90s. It's just you don't often hear about a 93 mile an hour changeup. So at least there's something else for batters to think about. But it's mostly that fastball and slider. And for him to overcome that control that he showed in that breakout game and keep on trucking like he is, I mean, it's very exciting. We'll see how long this goes. Like, maybe if those walks creep up again, and again, 8 and 13 and 2/3 isn't ideal by any means. You would want it to be like 1 walk every 2 innings instead of at this rate. But he's got a 2.63 ERA, 1.39 WHIP. Like, the pieces are there for Harleen Susana, so he's going to be one I'm going to continue to keep following. Bubba Chandler's off to another strong start, 18 strikeouts and 10 and 2/3. He's got a 1.69 ERA, 0.84 WHIP over 3 starts. I thought he was going to be a candidate to break the Pittsburgh rotation out of spring. Instead, they've sent him back to AAA Indianapolis, but like, it's terrific stuff. Obviously, so much of the hype right now around the Bucks is with Paul Skeens and having him there for multiple years, and how can they build around him? I think bringing up Chandler at some point, and that should happen, I would think, pretty soon, assuming health. Like, the pieces are there for Bubba Chandler to be like the number 2 in that rotation, even as good as Jared Jones has been. And I know he's been dealing with his own injuries. I think Bubba Chandler could be right there with Paul Skeens. In fact, I think he joked with Skeens, like when Skeens was announced as the opening day starter for Pittsburgh, he was like, he reached out to Paul Skeens and said, "Congrats, enjoy it for now until I take it next year." It's just like, I'm sure a lot of that is said tongue in cheek, but
Wow.
like, I love that confidence, right? Paul Skeens might be the best pitcher on planet Earth right now, and Bubba Chandler going right up to him, being like, I hope you like that title because I'm coming for you." That's how strong teams are built. One other one I'll throw out there, another guy at AAA is Cade Horton. Horton's dealt with injuries left and right since he was drafted by the Cubs in the first round a few years ago. But now he's pretty sustainably been at AAA. Iowa, so much of the attention goes to that lineup, right? Because of Kevin Alcantara and Moises Ballesteros and James Triantos and Owen Casey. It's one of them. We did at MLB Pipeline a ranking of like the most loaded rosters in baseball, or minor league baseball, I should say. And Iowa was right there at the top. And most of that was because of the hitting, but like Cade Horton is their best pitching prospect, and he's there as well. He struck out 18 and 12 and a third, only given up 2 earned runs so far. He's walked 10. Again, I don't know how much of that is just because of the cold of Iowa, and finding himself early on and what that's like. But like the sliders playing like as it should, the velocity has been there. The Cubs are one of those other teams that like they have big aspirations this year. That's why they went out and got Kyle Tucker. And when we did a story this week about not imminent call-ups, but like impact call-ups, guys who could get called up and have a real impact in the major leagues straight away. Jim Callis does our Cubs list, and he chose Horton for that reason over the hitters because he could come in, move pretty, or I don't want to say move pretty quick, but like his stuff could translate right away, especially that slider, I think. So keep an eye on that. And it's funny because I'm looking at a list right now of top 100 prospects, and they're in order by strikeouts. And Horton has 18. The other guy with 18 on that list is Bubba Chandler. The other guy with 18 on that list is Chase Dollander. And I don't think we addressed this, Tyler, but it was just so funny to me. And I texted you about this right after we recorded that podcast, saying like, why is he at AAA Albuquerque? This feels like throwing him to the wolves before getting called up, and like, what was the point of this? And then immediately after he moved to the Rockies.
We hadn't even posted the episode yet, and the Rockies made the announcement that he was going up, which is kind of funny because I used to host a Rockies podcast back in the day, and that happened with regularity, that we would talk about something and how it had happened or had not happened, and then the thing that we were addressing would happen in the time between when we recorded and when we posted the episode. So it was kind of fitting that it happened there. Yeah, he's been a little up and down through his first couple of big league starts, but obviously you expect that for a young guy at the major league level. Yeah, it's an interesting start of the year for a whole lot of prospects. And of course, you can follow Sam Dykstra for all of the latest and greatest news on all of it. Coming up, if you were tuned in last week, you learned Ghosts of the Minors on hiatus for right now. So we're going to skip on through to this week's edition of Name That Dude and wrap things up after the break. Well, just about set to wrap things up on this week's episode of the Show Before the Show. But before we do, we have some major Show Before the Show news. Actually, we don't yet. We're going to tease the fact that next week we will have some major Show Before the Show news. Earth-shattering, ground-shaking Show Before the Show news. I don't know if it's that big, but it's big. It's a big deal. None of us is leaving. Don't worry. Or maybe sorry to disappoint. But yeah, big stuff coming up next week on episode 500 of the Show Before the Show. Sam, did you ever think that we would make it 500 episodes? You know how much time we spent looking at each other through computer screens?
I don't want to contemplate that. That's so such a harsh way of putting it. No, I mean, I was obviously hopeful that we would, and we'll get more retrospective next week. We don't need to get into all this now. But yeah, no, when we set out to do this, we were thinking, all right, so what would the world look like 500 episodes from now? And I don't think we would have guessed it would look like this. Yeah.
Goodness gracious, absurd. But I'm excited, man. I'm very excited to enlighten you all on the nonsense to come on next week's episode of the show before the show. And before we wrap things up on this week's episode, it is time for the latest and greatest edition of Name That Dude. Benjamin Hill had to duck out and get prepped for some stuff tomorrow with his trip to Reading coming up. So it is just me and Sam. It is an abbreviated, shorthanded edition of Name That Dude. And all right, it is your turn to be the dude knower, Sam Dykstra, which makes me the dude guesser. Let's hear it, buddy. What do you got?
This might be one of the old, like, farthest we've thrown something back. And I'm hopeful that you'll get this. And if you'll,
Okay.
I won't give you too many guesses, because if you don't, that's fine. We can kind of move on. This is more of an educational dude than anything, and a dude with a story that I think deserves to be told on this podcast. But this player played back in the 1950s and 60s. He initially went to Contra Costa College, and I'm sorry for anybody out in California. Maybe that's Costa, but
I think it's Contra Costa.
Contra
It is
Costa?
probably
All right.
supposed to be pronounced like Contra Costa,
Okay.
although I just made it sound Italian. Oh, Ben's coming back. He's
Yeah.
walking in right behind you right now.
Oh, there we go. All right, great.
Okay, good.
So before I get too deep into this, Ben, we just started, so you have missed no clues.
No clues.
Other than this guy went to Contra Costa College.
Coast.
Sure. He played in the 1950s and 60s. So this might be like the farthest we've thrown something back.
Whoa.
Sam is turning his computer screen away. I can see as Ben sat down. Sam was like, "Oh man, we got to keep this confidential."
Ben may
obviously.
have been studying me from
preserve the
behind my back
integrity of
since I was-
Name That Dude. No, I will defend Ben's honor. I saw him walk behind. He was looking the other way as he walked behind you, so he's
Okay.
not
All right.
not stealing any info.
And to prove how much of a throwback this is, this player signed with the Oakland Oaks,
Wow.
who were in the Pacific Coast League in 1953, back when the PCL wasn't really affiliated yet. It was its own thing. So he got sent to their single A team in Wenatchee, Washington.
Yeah, and I believe it was the Oakland Oaks who eventually moved to Iowa, because in the Iowa, they were the Iowa Oaks.
They were the Iowa Oaks.
Yeah,
That may have been
I
possible.
think
don't
that
know.
might be the connection there. But
Okay.
anyway,
All right. So at the age of 19, he played for Wenatchee at the single A level. 1954, played for Wenatchee again.
where's Wenatchee?
Wenatchee, Washington.
Washington.
They were the Wenatchee Chiefs, both of those years. 1955, he was with the Stockton Ports in the California League, a level C team at the time. And then 1956, he joins the Boston Red Sox organization. And they wanted him to go to Montgomery, Alabama, but he didn't want to go there for reasons that might become clear later.
Yeah.
And instead got assigned to Albany in the Eastern League. He played 138 games for the Albany Senators that year, had a 274 batting average, 757 OPS. 1957 splits time between Oklahoma City and San Francisco, the San Francisco Seals and the Oklahoma City Indians at the time. 1958, AAA with the Minneapolis Millers, and then spends 98 games back with the Millers in 1959, debuts with the Red Sox in 1959, his age 25 season, plays with the Red Sox for 4 seasons, then joins the Mets, plays for their AAA affiliate, the Buffalo Bisons, for 130 games in 1963, back with the Bisons in 1964, and then 1965, plays 33 games split between the Buffalo Bisons and Syracuse Chiefs, then a Tigers affiliate. And that was his last year in affiliated baseball. And
I do
yes,
think I know this.
That's an interesting career. In 1957 in San Francisco, that was the last year of minor league ball in San Francisco of the old PCL.
Yeah, he's credited with 9 games there. I'm not entirely sure how that worked according to Baseball Reference, but yeah, played 141 games for Oklahoma City, who was a AA team at the time, and a 718 OPS. So there you
And
go.
you said he played for Buffalo.
He played for Buffalo in 63 and 64.
I do think I know this.
He was a power hitter.
No.
No? Okay,
It,
I
it
was thinking somebody else.
his career high for home runs was 17 with Buffalo and 63, but over his 5 major league seasons, he only hit 13 homers. Tyler, you have a guess?
I do. The Montgomery thing kind of
That would have
was
been
the thing
a
that
pretty clear.
is
Yeah.
this Pumpsy Green?
This is Pumpsy Green.
Oh,
Yes.
wow.
And, we started the show today talking about how it's Jackie Robinson Day was
Yeah.
on April 15th. But in some ways, we can call this Jackie Robinson week. I don't think anybody's going to stop us from doing that. But I was quoting pretty liberally there in terms of his history from a piece in Baseball Prospectus from July 2019, written by Shakia Taylor, about Pumpsy Green, the last of the firsts. And the Red Sox were the last team to effectively bring a black player to the major leagues, to their major league team
In 1958.
in 1959 and that was after some pressure from the NAACP as well. This was not something that, the Red Sox infamously brought in black players like Jackie Robinson to try out at Fenway Park. But that was more to placate other people than actually give them a fair shake, which is very unfortunate. Obviously, somebody had to be last. Like there was going to be a last team, but the fact that it was the Red Sox, I think, is part of the stain on their history. And one thing Shakir wrote about this is like this is a story that deserves to be told, and Pumpsy Green should be a franchise legend for the Red Sox. And one idea that's been floated out there that I really enjoy is you shouldn't just wear Jackie Robinson's number on that day. Every team should wear the number of their first black player.
Yeah, that's a cool idea.
Let's expand that history. Because if you didn't know Pumpsy Green's story and you're a Red Sox fan, you deserve to. And you should hear like how long that took for him to finally make that major league debut and how long it took for the Red Sox to break their own color barrier. There are stories for all 30 teams. And if you're like a expansion team like the D-backs or the Rays, there's stories from your area that you could tell via numbers as well. Jackie Robinson deserves all the praise he gets. Amazing American. You can make the case that he's the most historically important player in baseball history. But there are other guys whose stories deserve to be told. And maybe we leave Jackie's story to April 15th and we tell the other stories throughout the week. But I wanted Pumpsy Green to get some shine here at the end of the week as well.
Yeah, I mean,
I
there's
like
so many
that.
people. I mean, you think about, the first for all, well, there were 30 teams back then, but the first for all 24 major league teams.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many there were. But
back then, and then the first in some cases this was the same players who then were in the majors, but then the first to integrate various minor leagues and various teams in the minor leagues. We had the Southern Association, the precursor to today's Southern League, shut down entirely in like 1960 or so because it refused to integrate. There are a lot of stories along these lines. There's a book called Brushing Back Jim Crow that speaks to this throughout minor league baseball and the process of integrating the minor leagues. Baseball's Great Experiment by Jules Teagle. Phenomenal book that really dives into all this. I mean, there's so many lesser known stories. I mean, even in 1946, when Jackie Robinson was spring training in Daytona Beach and then, playing in Montreal Royals, the Dodgers also had Roy Campanella playing in Nashua, New Hampshire, and Don Newcomb as well, I believe. I mean, there's just so many pathways to go down once you broach this topic, and a lot of fascinating American stories.
And it also highlights too, right? Like just because Jackie Robinson came up, it wasn't everybody like being all right. Our hands are clean. We're done here. Like it took over a decade after Jackie Robinson to debut for the Red Sox to have their first black player.
Yeah.
So again, these are just stories that should be told, and bring that up about Montgomery and not wanting to go down there. I mean, when we had the Rickwood game last year, you heard Reggie Jackson about like, yeah, there are some good memories here at this field, but there are a lot of tough memories about being back in this place. And you would hope things have changed. And I know, for the people of Birmingham, they have gotten, it is not the 60s anymore, but like, again, the only way we learn from history is to tell those stories over and over again and learn from it and see what we can change and what has changed.
Not only that, but I think it's important to continue engaging with those stories in a modern context too. And I want to recommend 2 podcasts to people. If you have not heard them, listen to them. One of them is called Reclaimed, the Forgotten League podcast. It's from ABC, and it is by Vanessa Ivy Rose. She's the host. She is the granddaughter of a Hall of Famer and one of the greatest all-time ball players in history, Turkey Stearns, whose actual first name was Norman, but man, what a much cooler name Turkey Stearns is as a nickname. Turkey Stearns was a superstar in the Negro Leagues. Terrific story looking back on not only his career, but the Negro Leagues at large. And that podcast series actually predated the inclusion of Negro League statistics as Major League statistics. And it's kind of cool because they talk about that in the podcast. And then there's a follow-up episode, if I remember correctly, when that designation was finally officially announced by Major League Baseball that Negro League stats would be MLB stats going forward. That's a really great show. And Black Diamonds, which is hosted by the president of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, Bob Kendrick. Incredible show. Bob, I know, has been a little bit limited in putting out episodes in recent weeks. Part of that is due to the fact that, and we want to send him all of our best wishes, but Bob actually, I believe, toward his patella tendon, just like stepped wrong and suffered a knee injury, had to undergo knee surgery. He is as consummate a gentleman and as cool of a human being as you will ever come across in your life. But if you haven't listened to the Black Diamonds podcast, tune into that one as well. It is fascinating. And it tells so many amazing stories from the history of black baseball, and really, really good, really interesting, first rate, on the ground conversations with people who played in the Negro Leagues or have studied the Negro Leagues, and just some of the most fascinating baseball stories out there. And yeah, Pumpsy Green, good selection for this week's edition of Name That Dude, which will wrap up our 499th episode. And again, coming up next week, we've got a big announcement coming your way on episode number 500 of the show before the show. So for everybody here on the official podcast of Minor League Baseball, for Benjamin Hill and Sam Dykstra, my name is Tyler Maughan, and we will catch you all next week.